Hi, and welcome to this episode of Brainy Moms. I'm Dr. Amy Moore, here with my co-host Teri Miller, coming to you today from sunny Colorado Springs. Our guest today is Teri Karjala. She is a transformational life strategist, the founder of Creative Counseling Center and Talking with Teri, best-selling author of Be the Magic of You, Tools to Transform Your Life, with a foreword written by Jack Canfield. She's a premier success coach with eWomen Network and a coach with Forbes. She's been featured in many television, podcasts, and radio shows, including Hay House.
Welcome, Teri. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, it's such a delight to be here. Thank you, ladies.
Yes. So if you're listening, interesting and bizarre little tidbit, if you're on Facebook, you can see, three of our faces in our little boxes, and two of us have the same first name spelled exactly the same, which is unusual, Teri with only one R. And we just found out, even stranger, I'm Teri Miller, that Teri Karjala's maiden name is
That
Teri
was my
Miller.
maiden name. Oh my goodness. It's such, I don't know, that just seems really fun to know.
I know.
Anyways.
Interesting small world kind of, so.
And Teri is coming to us from Colorado as well.
Yes.
I mean, we rarely get to interview people from the same state that we're located
I
in.
know.
So just coincidences everywhere.
Yes.
Love it.
Really small world. We could just throw stones at each other practically. No.
And I was just there last week. I was just speaking down in Colorado Springs last week. So
Awesome.
I was.
Well, I am excited to hear about what a transformational life strategist is. So tell us a little bit about your story and what brought you to the point of being a transformational life strategist.
Well, first of all, that's a term I just made up.
Okay.
Rewind. So when I was, this actually started when I was in a sophomore in high school. So there were six of us. So in high school, we didn't have like a traditional mental health counselor in high school. They had a career counselor. And so they picked three girls and three boys to become peer counselors. So in my in high school, we were going to Washburn University, which was like the social work mecca in Kansas. And we were getting trained, in these 3-day long intensive, events, becoming a peer counselor. And so we would do these workshops and do, follow-up workshops. And so we were just getting trained as high school students. And I wanted to become either an undercover cop in New York City or a cosmetologist. Okay. But when I became a peer counselor, what happened was I was in charge of the 5th and 6th grade. So I go over there for lunch and get to know them and hang out with them. And, knowing that I was in a listening ear and I can, if there was any troubles or problems or, concerns, that I was there to help address it. And we did little things like friendships and things like that. But one of the girls who was a 5th grader came to me and said that her 6th grade friend was going to commit suicide. She had a plan. The parents were going out of town. She was staying with a babysitter, and we ended up getting involved. The person who was overseeing us, and being a sophomore in high school and being a part of possibly saving someone's life was transformational. And it changed the trajectory of my life. It was so powerful. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Long story short, I had some challenges, getting the support I needed through the high school to get into the, colleges. And, I ended up going to college for counseling, found some great mentors that mentored me to yes to this, no to that. And no, you don't want to do social work. No, you want to do therapy, and then went on to pursue a master's degree in counseling. And I just fell in love with, the counseling world. I was doing counseling, in my undergrad, and just loved it. And so after my master's, I opened up a counseling center and then grew it to be a very large owner independent company. So right now it runs itself. I spend about 4 hours a month in that company. And that's given me the freedom to, continue to grow. And now I work solely with women entrepreneurs. So the other company, we continue to see children, adolescents, and adults that have experienced trauma. So mostly sexual abuse, physical abuse, witnessing domestic violence, homicides, suicides, pretty much anything traumatic for a child's life, and individuals and adults. And so that's continued to run. And then that's allowed me to just the freedom to step out to what I feel called to do. And so I launched Talking with Teri. Interesting enough, Talking with Teri was, I think it was 16 or 17 years ago, my social media person had said, "What's your retirement plan?" And I just word vomited on her. And I said, "I'm going to be traveling and speaking and da, 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 da." And by the way, at the time I was terrified of speaking. Okay. And I was like, where did that come from? And I was like, I think it's going to be called Talking with Teri. And she's like, oh my goodness, I love it. So I bought the domains like 15 years, 16 years, even before I even knew I was going to use that. But now I've taken my 24 years of counseling experience. I've combined it with energy psychology and then applied the principles of quantum physics to really help leverage women entrepreneurs' businesses. I feel very called to doing this because I feel like so often what I've experienced in the networking events and things is that women will start a business. Okay. And when we start a business, there's multiple hats that we wear and we get bogged down by everything that we're doing. We have all these limiting beliefs that are playing out, the self-sabotage, that I can't go big enough. And so we don't create the impact that we could have. And our businesses and the impact that we have really suffer. And so I'm all about having women have a bigger impact in the world. And I think kind of on the back frame of where we're having this conversation is I think we need more people to step into their power, step into their brilliance, to really own, the services that they provide and the impact that they can have on the community and really help kind of lift as we climb. And from a collective consciousness perspective, I think it's much needed right now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So let's dig in a little bit to that idea that women entrepreneurs should be making a bigger impact on the world. Right.
Yeah.
So you work with them exclusively. What are some of the biggest challenges and barriers to success that you're seeing?
I will always say the biggest number one challenge that we have to our success is our mindset. You can teach skills, right? We can teach how to, have a better following on social media. We can teach how to have sales conversations, right? We can teach, all these skills and systems and structures. But if we are getting ourselves in the way, so for example, I had this powerful conversation today. And this lady has been working with a sales coach for over a year. And I was like, fantastic. I'm thinking she's going to nail these sales calls. And she's like, her business is flourishing, right? And I asked her, I was like, how many sales calls have you had in the last year? Like how many clients are you closing each year or each month? Take a guess.
She's been with them for a year. Doesn't sound like she's making any progress.
Zero. Wow. You know why?
Why?
She's afraid to be seen. If she goes in front of an audience and actually speaks her truth, that means that she would have to stand out. That means what would other people think? So she chooses not to be seen. And so she doesn't have to do sales calls because that makes sense, right? And so she's playing small. She's playing small in the world and she's sabotaging her own success by not getting out there and not having an impact, right? And so that's what I love I love working with other coaches, whether they're doing any type of sales or marketing or branding or, whatever that might be. Because what I think my tagline should be, I help other coaches look good because if their clients are actually doing the work, right, because I'm not going to go and teach business. My clients, I have a client that she says, you're fantastic, Teri. You're like a little unicorn because she's like, you're like a 3 coach in one. She's like, you were a therapist. you tap into the energy and the spiritual piece of it, but you understand how to have a business and, create successful businesses. And so I pull that from that, but I think it's really important that we get ourselves in our own ways of our successes. So I kind of talk about the top 5 blocks in which women get ourselves in the way. And that one is just the limiting beliefs, whatever the previous programming was that we brought through life, right? And that's usually, I'm not blank enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm not, young enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not, whatever that might be. The next one is self-sabotage, where we're just getting ourselves in our way by purposefully, sometimes consciously, but mostly unconsciously. Every time we take those 2 steps forward, like, oh gosh, scary, I better back up, right? And we find ourselves sabotaging all sorts of things, not just our business, but in our relationships as well. And then getting stuck in fear. During this pandemic, the last couple of years, what happened energetically was, there was a big blanket of fear that got thrown onto the planet. So people that were in fear to begin with now has this added layer, so that's another big, piece of it, getting stuck in the fear and not being able to go into action, and then getting in overwhelm, right? As entrepreneurs, I always tell everyone who becomes an entrepreneur, like, read the book, The E-Myth Revisited. I just love it, by Michael Gerber. It's just a great book, but it talks about the systems and structures. And what happens for entrepreneurs is that we go into it thinking that we're going to be the tech person because we love the tech part, whatever service and product that we're serving. But in order to scale our business and to become bigger, we take on all these other admin and, manager, type duties that we're not necessarily chose to do in the beginning when we were stepping into this. And we don't have to go that direction, but that's typically the direction that most people go. And it's getting creative, to get around those skills, or not the skills, but the tasks that's required to, grow the business. The last one is the next one is getting stuck in imposter syndrome. So, comparing ourselves to other people, not thinking that we're worthy enough, not thinking that we're good enough. I mean, that one plays out. And I'll tell you, like, some of my biggest clients, I have a client right now that she brings in $27 billion. That's a B with billion. And she has the imposter syndrome like crazy. She does not feel good about herself. She's always comparing herself. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, can you imagine? Wait until we get this all cleared out, because, girlfriend, you're going to be like skyrocketing it, right? And having an incredible impact. And then the last one is, no, I think I went over them all. Yeah. I was like, wait, I think there's another one.
You can add another one, sure.
And there's many more, but those are kind of the big ones. And those are kind of the, far reaching ones that have a big impact on, how we view ourselves, how we view our business, how are we showing up? Because when we start to shrink, and whatever those, stories are, when we start to shrink back, we're not allowing people to see us for who we really are. So I love helping people, clear those blocks. But then the second thing is I teach them the tools, how they can really be magnetic, and making networking easy, I love having people become so magnetic that when they walk into the room, their ideal clients walk up to them and like, hey, like, you're speaking to me. I want to work with you. What is that? I'm curious, and so it creates this curiosity, and people are like, I don't know that that's the best like sound effect, but that's what it feels like, right? When it's like I want to work with you.
Great sound
right?
effect.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a little Slurpee. I'm a Slurpee magnet.
Yeah.
So tell us one way that we can be more of a magnet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. There's lots of ways. Let me just think about this for a second.
You can tell us more than one. I just
yeah.
wasn't trying to give away your trade secrets on national radio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I'm happy to give out secrets, because here's the thing is that when, if, and whenever I'm working with clients, they always get a bonus, because I always tell them, like, I want you to take this tool and I want you to go teach someone tonight. And the reason for that is because I truly believe in abundance. And, if you teach it to somebody else, you automatically start to lock it in. But how we become more magnetic? Yes, there's a lot of things that are holding us back. And if we are telling our stories over and over and over again by that stinking thinking, so I'm going to tell you a couple of things. One is to stop the noise, okay? And so often we're unconscious of what are the stories that we're telling ourselves. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I had this client come in and she would just beat herself up. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I did this wrong. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I am an idiot. And she would say, oh, no, she didn't say idiot. She said stupid. I am stupid. And she would say this like 15 or 20 times. And I would just kind of like not, make note of it. And I was like, you're doing that a thing again. And she's like, what? She was so unconscious that she was calling herself stupid. And she's like, I would not. And I'm like, I had to like convince her. I'm like, this is what's coming out of your mouth, because she was so unconscious to it. Okay. So what I invite people to do is, one is to cancel out those negative thoughts. It's easy for us to work forward, right? But if you're still going back and just like, continuing that cycle of the unconscious, limiting beliefs, like, so according to the National Science Foundation, we have anywhere from 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and only 2,000 of those are conscious. Okay. So when we think we're running the show, we're really not. It's the unconscious, right? And so it's the scripts that are in play. It's all the reinforcement. It's all the imprinting that has happened in this programming. And so one of the tools that I teach people, and so for those that are listening, I want you to write this down. Okay. Do not do this while you're driving. Pull over, be safe, safety first. Okay. But go ahead and write down. It goes like this: interesting point of view that I have this interesting point of view. And I want you to put a 3x behind that. Okay. So when we're saying that, now, ladies, you guys are on video with me. You guys get the joy of like kind of seeing how this works. But when we have these negative thoughts that are coming into our brain, what happens is these activate the reticulating activation system of our brain. That part of the brain actually goes and seeks evidence to support it, to say, yep, that's true. You're an idiot because you didn't pick up the kids on time. You're an idiot because you didn't call that lady back, and now you missed your speaking engagement. Like, right, all these different things. So when we start to say this, it kind of looks like this, where it's interesting point of view that I have this interesting point of view, interesting point of view that I have this point of view, interesting point of view that I have this point of view. And what happens is we actually cancel out that thought. Okay. And the power of this is that's what it's going to bring the not only cancel out that thought, but it's also going to bring about awareness to the quality of your thoughts. And now for me, once I do that 3 times, okay, I'm canceling that thought out. Okay. I like to bring back and open up to the possibilities again. Okay. So now that we've cut out the negative, now opening it back up. And I like to ask a generative question like, what else is possible? Okay, because generational questions start to open us back up again from an energetic perspective. Now, most of my people always say, well, how many times should I be doing this a day? And I'm like, well, we have around 48,000 thoughts that are unconscious. So, do it 10,000 times a day. I'm kidding. But if you did it like 50 times a day, I wonder what you could create, right? And so when to use this tool is when you have any negative thoughts, whenever you jump to conclusions about yourself or other people, when you jump to conclusions or outcomes, and then anytime you have judgments for yourself or someone else, all of those tend to cut off the energy from the quantum field, if you will. And so utilizing this tool, now I invite people to write this tool down, put it on Post-it notes, put it like in your car, on your dashboard, at your home computer, at your work computer, like on the refrigerator. And because what's happening is we're not going to always catch those unconscious thoughts. Okay. So I invite people to invite other friends, family members, spouses, significant other, power partners, mentors, whatever that might be. So when they catch you doing that, say, okay, let's come up with a code word, like the purple elephant. And so that they can also start helping you catch that. So you can start replacing that, but also canceling that piece out, because that will stop the spiral that's helping. So when we start doing that, it's amazing what we can shift and create by simply just doing that little exercise.
Okay.
And that's one way that we can start stepping back into our magnetism, because from a vibrational standpoint, when we are, so the research has been has shown that every emotion is on a vibrational scale. So we have the negative emotions down at the bottom, and then all the way up to the top. Okay. So the negative ones would be, depression, fear, doubt, worry. We go up the scale to maybe some more contentment. We might have joy in there, and then happiness. And then we keep going back up the scale into the positive emotions, which is the highest is love and gratitude. And so when we are coming from a place of fear and doubt, we are actually creating in our environment, we're actually calling into that the same vibrational standpoints. We start to create some of those experiences. We start to, just it's in that vibration. So when we become magnetic and we're up in the highest, when we're in our highest and greatest good, right? We are unstoppable. We are on fire. We are like passionate. We are there, right? That's a very different place than being in the despair, right? So when we're in that alignment, people will, I always tell people, like, it's almost like playing with what I call celebrity energy, because people, like, you become this like gigantic magnet. It's like, I don't know what's happening. Like, so I like to teach my clients how to get there, because life gets a lot easier when you become the magnet, allowing people that are in the same vibrational scale as you to come into your life, whether that's be clients, speaking engagements, opportunities. It just becomes a lot easier for people.
Like negative, positive energy, that kind of thing, that's contagious, that we are affecting the people around us. Even with the energy, the negative self-talk energy, that's creating negative energy, negative vibrations in me, and then that affects the people around me. And so I walk into a room and I'm not magnetic, I'm repellent.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And and I always tell people, like, when they call me, like, oh, I'm not digging this networking event. I don't want to go. I don't want to, man, I have to drive. I'm thinking parking, right? And I'm like, don't go. Like, don't go, because when you walk in, you're going to be like, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And what happens is, for a lot of people, they don't, they choose to go anyways. Cause like, I got to get my networking hours. I got to get my connections. I got to get my whatever. They go to the event. They're like, I don't want to be here. And then they show up this way. They show up in this place that they don't want to be. And they start attracting the clients like that. Okay. So then they're like, okay, yeah, get my business cards, blah, 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 blah. And then they leave. And then the next 3 days, they're like back up in their zone of genius again, right? And then these clients that they've signed up on become, I'm going to say PIDAs. Okay, you guys know what that stands for, right? The pain in the rear clients, right? And these become the needy, the wanty, the whiny. And they are like, why? I don't understand. Why are these clients? They were normal when I met them, and now they're not, And so that shift in that vibration creates that dissonance between those two vibrations. And then we're like surprised when it doesn't work out,
Okay, so let's recap that. So if you show up to a networking opportunity in a bad mood, or even in a neutral mood, right? I'm here because I need to be here, not because I'm so excited about being here. Then you're going to attract others in that same mindset or in that same mood, right?
Yeah.
And then when you are in a great mood, and you don't recognize it in the other person when you're in the neutral or negative space.
Yeah. And neutral is not a bad place to be in. Like, it's not, neutrality in the world of energy is not a bad place to be in, because it's just neutral. Right.
Okay.
But it definitely, if you're in that negative headspace, and I invite people, like I teach my clients. And so I do a lot of outside the box things. Like, I used to be a therapist, and I always tell people, like, I'm the first therapist you'll meet that says I don't like therapy because I think it takes too long. I just find there's other ways that we can do things. And, within, most of the things that I teach are under 2 minutes. I should say all of them are under 2 minutes. Most of them are under like 30 seconds. So I'll have clients in their car doing a couple of things for their brain, making sure that their brain is on track so that the words come up to them easily, doing some different energy tools so that they show up really powerful. And so they become magnetic in that sense. So it's just easier for those conversations and the possibilities, and it just becomes very generative in that process. Nice. And that's true for any people. That's not just for networking. That's for business meetings. That's for, collaboration calls. That's for, opportunities, that are happening. That is meeting people at the grocery store. I mean, right. Like, I haven't figured, I'm going to try to do a 48-hour challenge. It's called a silent retreat. It's going to be a challenge, and you don't talk. And I'm like, I kind of want to sign up for this because I want to see if this, I can actually do this. But I think it's so much fun when you're out and about and you can start these like really juicy conversations because you never know where these conversations are going to go. So any place, you can apply these tools, and in connection with another being, and I just think that we need that. I think we need more smiles, more hugs, or whatever we can do to help, support one another and during this time.
Hey, can I get real specific on, just so our listeners can understand, I want to go back to the interesting point of view concept you were talking about, because I'm a little unclear. And so I want to clarify.
Yeah.
You were showing your hand. So she was making her hand go towards, one hand is standing straight up and down, and the other one's like traveling along, and it hits this wall of the other hand.
So when I start to, and this is when you're in the real world, right? I'm not going to use my hands to describe this. I'm using it just to kind of show you kind of how like in the brain, it cancels out that thought. Okay. But if I'm finding myself in stinky thinking, right, I'm just going to say, oh, interesting point of view that I had this point of view, interesting point of view that I had this point of view, interesting point of view that I had this point of view. One, it gives you the quality of that's going to tell you kind of the and what's powerful. Let me pause for a second. What's powerful when you start using this, within a week, if you do this every day, within a week, people will start noticing when they are like beating themselves up. Because what happens is we take stuff from unconscious and we're moving it into the conscious frame of mind. Okay. So when your friends or colleagues say, gosh, you know what, Teri, you just did that thing again. And you're like, oh yeah, let me just cancel that out. Right. So it's a way in which we can cancel out our thoughts that are not serving us. And then by asking the next question, what else is possible? We start to open ourselves back up energetically to what I call like creating miracles or creating excitement. Because so many times when we start to beat ourselves up, okay, it doesn't go like, I'm going to beat myself up and then I move on. Most people will beat themselves up. And what happens is when engaged in the brain, they're going to keep spiraling. And this spiral can last an hour, it can last, 4 days, it can last a week, it can last a month. And for some cases, people stay in there for 7 years, right? Because we're just continuing to beat ourselves up. When I tell people now I was being interviewed the other day and someone had said, you're so positive. And I said, can you believe it or not? I actually used to be so negative in such a victim state because I was always running that script that I'm not blank enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm not, tall enough. I'm not, it was like always, there was always something wrong with me. Right. And so I played that script. And then when someone else gave me, maybe constructive, but I didn't feel like it was constructive criticism at that time. I'm like, oh my gosh, they are telling me that I am worthless. Right. So I am continuing to play that script and I am just spiraling out of control in that regards. Right. And so, stopping that, so that we're not continuing to build up there. Because I believe that when we have all these continuous thoughts, what happens over time that we continue having these negative thoughts, we actually create belief systems. And those belief systems, then follow us, right? And so if we can stop the thoughts, we don't anchor in and create those powerful belief systems that's not serving us.
Yeah. So, hey, yes. I'm going to get even more specific.
Yep.
Okay, because I want to I want to do an example for our listeners. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had an earlier podcast interview. Mm-hmm. I had technical difficulties, and Amy, you have heard me say this so many times. Okay, so here's a negative thought. Here's the thing I beat myself up about. I was having technical difficulties getting hardwired, whatever, in. And the thought I had in that anxiety in the minutes before I'm supposed to be plugged in is, I am so technically stupid. Everything I touch technically, I fail at. What's wrong with this computer? What's wrong with the hardwire? I'm touching it. That's what, and I'm just beating myself up. And so, and my heart is pounding. I'm anxious. By the time I finally plug in and I'm like, hi, saying hi to this person we're interviewing, I am
a mess.
We had been in, yeah. I have to admit that I think there for a few minutes, that negative energy, that vibration, it was through the airwaves.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what state she was in, but 100,000 miles away,
even as you're talking about this, I am feeling it. Like I'm feeling you relive it. I'm like, oh goodness, I feel this,
so
like
much.
this energy, right?
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. So, and
how would I have done that?
And
well, first of all, let me just add, she was so spun up that she couldn't even think of the alternative. Yes. Like I had to text her the alternative action.
So what happens is, I think I love you ladies. Okay. I love you ladies. I'm just going to hang out here all day.
Amy's like, just use the
Wi-Fi.
Use the Wi-Fi.
So when we spin ourselves like this and we go into fear, because now I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be like, blah, 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 and I'm whoop, and it goes whoop, plop, right? And we get stuck down in this place. And what happens is we shut off our resources, right? We go into, you go into fear, you shut down, and you can't see past what is happening, right? And so we just go like blinders on, and we're like, even the most common sense things, we're like, wait, I don't get this, right? So when in that state, you can just be like, oh my, okay. And just like, if you need to, just like, okay, hold the horses. Okay. Step away. Okay. Interesting. And if you need to take some breaths, like just, okay, interesting point of view that I have to point of view, interesting point of view that I have to point of view, interesting point of view that I have to point of view. And you might be screaming it. Okay. Let's be real. Like, oh my gosh, Teri said interesting point of view. Like, and you can do that if you need. Okay. But we wouldn't just like cancel that piece out, because, and then, going, okay, take a deep breath, walk away if you need, come back and be like, okay, what else is possible? I wonder if there's a solution, right? And once we can quiet our mind enough, the solution will appear. Okay. And I get that like frazzled energy that's happening, because it's like, I have like 30 seconds, right? Like I got to find this, right? It's funny, when I was hopping on here today, I was like, oh, I have 5 minutes. I have plenty of time. I'll sit down and blah, blah, blah. Well, then something happened with my daughter and I was like, oh, wait. Oh no, I'm 4:01. And I was like, I'm on here late. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to sit. Right. I didn't even allow myself to create a story, because I'm like, you know what? I'm here. Right. So just calming yourself in that sense, and just saying, okay, what else is possible? And here's your homework. I used to have that same story. My story was, I used to call myself, oh my gosh, what did you call it? You said, everything
technical. I
said I was allergic to technology. That was what I'm like, I'm allergic to technology, and like everything goes awry. And I had the craziest experiences with all my computers and technology, and I was like, okay, stop it. So I chose, maybe like 2 years ago, maybe 3. I said, you know what? I am going to be such a embracing a different reality. And I'm like, wow, why is technology so easy for me? Okay, so I flipped it into a question, generative questions, what happens with the brain. So if I say I am a technical, if I say I am a technical genius, my brain's going to say, Teri, really? Really, you're a technical genius? Well, let me show you the evidence that you're not. But when I flip it into a question and I say, gosh, why is it that why is it technology so easy for me? My brain goes, I don't know. Why is that? So now my brain starts to seek out. I'm gonna go see the baby. Okay.
Oh, we're having
sweet. That was called multitasking, right?
Yes.
So why is it so easy? Why is it so easy that I become in alignment with technology? And my brain now is going, I don't know. Why is that? And now my brain is having a different task to find the evidence, right? So our brain's going to find out either negative evidence or positive evidence. And if I point it in the right direction, it's going to go find the evidence, right? And so now I am telling you, I am like super in alignment with technology. And I'm like, that's because it's so easy, right? But it's just shifting that script, it's flipping the script and shifting that, right? And now it's like, okay, now things are easy. And even like just now, like when I was like, okay, where's the email? I'm like, oh, it's right here. It was like so easy. And I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I didn't have to so flipping that script and asking the question. And I invite people to flip the question, like, okay, why is it so blank? Why is it so easy for blank? Because then we start to shift that brain into seeking it out. It's almost like a giant Google, right? Like if I go and Google, purple rainbows, I guarantee you I'm going to find some purple rainbows, right? But if I go in there and find, if I type in, disgusting purple rainbows, I'm going to go find disgusting purple rainbows too, right? So whichever one I'm creating, I'm going to be finding the evidence for.
I love the idea of asking the question instead of, I feel like as moms, as women, a lot of times we get this advice, well, just turn it around, say the opposite. Like, okay, I'm struggling to be patient with my kids. And it's, well, just tell yourself you're so patient with your kids. Well, that feels like a lie. That feels like what a bunch of
and the brain doesn't like that. The brain does not like it because it's like, you're lying to me. Okay. Yeah. And ego doesn't like it, right? Because it knows you're lying, and now you're lying. Now you have guilt. Now you have mom guilt, and you're lying to yourself. Right. And so it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Those two negatives don't work. It doesn't create a positive. Yeah.
Instead of saying, I wonder why I am learning to be so patient with my kids. I wonder why I'm so
and we could get on a whole new topic with parenting, right? Like, cause I love parenting. I think it's fun, but I also lead with humor. And so it's a different thing. Cause I don't let, what they make it, they're making their choices. Right. And I get to so I adopted a lot from Love and Logic, which I loved. Mm-hmm. But I still and Love and Logic does work on adults as well. I'm just saying, but like when you get into a flow of things and it can be joyful, like I just have found the joy in parenting. Now, I'm not saying it's been all, fun and rainbows, because we've had some tough conversations, but I allow the consequences teach itself. And then, and I'm just really consistent, and it's like, oh, but I use a lot of humor because when my daughter went through the sassy stage, I was like, oh my gosh. Right. Anywho, I'm digressing. We could talk about parenting too. Because I think parenting can be fun.
Then let me bring you back in.
Yeah, me too. And I think we need to take a break or something.
So my Teri likes to digress. So the two of you together, yeah.
The TNT team.
Exactly. So speaking of parenting, and when in thinking about the impact of being a mom on also being a mompreneur or a mom in business, how do you advise moms to find that balance? How can they still grow their business, focus on their business, be a successful mompreneur while still honoring being a parent?
Yeah, I truly believe that solopreneurs have the hardest, right? I highly, highly invite whatever your business is, invest in creating a team. And even if you start a team, because we cannot do all, and we are not going to be successful at doing all. So there's an exercise that I love having people do, and that is writing out your company flow chart. Okay, it sounds silly, it sounds basic, but here's the box of my CEO. Okay, who's the lead tech person? That's like whoever does the job, like the service that you provide or the, whatever. So who's that? Okay, and that most often is that person, right? Who's the marketing person? Who's the bookkeeper? Who's the CPA? Who's the front desk person? Who's the admin person? Who's the sales, whatever, right? And you list them all out because we are doing all of those, okay? And how I grew my first business was I started looking at the boxes and I wrote down like maybe 3 or 4 kind of major skill or major tasks that each person required, right? Or each position required. And I'm like, what do I hate the most? Okay. And I said, how much more money do I have to be making in order to fill that position? And so sometimes we don't even bring on team because we're like, oh my gosh, I have to be a bazillionaire before I bring on a front desk person. It's real. When you look at the numbers and you look at capacity numbers, it's really not that much. You can say, okay, if I bring this person in for 15 hours a week, doing this for, at this point, that's only, let's say $300 or $400 a week or whatever that might be. And say, okay, how do I, right? And backfill that. So get team, get support, right? Sometimes we think we have to do it ourselves. And as soon as we get support, even if it's one person, even if it's a virtual assistant, okay? Having someone take some things off our plate, but then honoring you and your business. And I'm a big believer in calendar and calendar blocking. I think it's so valuable because it's like what we often do is we plan our day we don't plan our day in reverse. We like, okay, well, I'm going to show up and I'm going to show up and then I'm going to put out fires. On my calendar, I have it time blocked exactly when I'm going to do podcasts. I know exactly when I'm going to see one-on-one clients. I know exactly when every week is the same because I've time blocked it. So when people ask me like, so, Dr. Amy, if you called me and said, oh, I'd love to, do a coaching session with you. I'm like, great. And I'm going to say, what works better for you, morning or afternoon? Because you only have a couple slots that I'm going to put you in, but I have total control of my calendar. And you're going to think I am like the most generous person with my calendar, but I'm like, I'm only going to put you in these two days, right? Great. You can do afternoons. Fantastic. I only have Wednesdays. I have a 1 o'clock and a 2 o'clock. Which one works for you? Right. And I am going to have total control over my calendar based on it's important to me. I work 3 days a week. Okay. And I own 2 companies because I believe that life balance is really important, but I wouldn't be able to do it without a team. One team I have 9 people on this team and I have 5 people on this team. But if I didn't have my team, I'd be a little lost. Okay. So my tip for the solopreneur, because I know that there's a lot of solopreneurs out there, is, really carve out the time that you're going to be with your family. And then what is the time that you're going to be with your business, and be really strategic with your business? Because I'll be honest, when we have 4 hours that is just blank and we don't know what to do with it, right? Plan it out, because there's a philosophy, a theory. It's called the Parkinson's theory. And that means that time expands or contracts based on how much time we tell it's going to take. Okay. So if we tell ourselves it's going to take 20 minutes, it's going to take 20 minutes. If we tell ourselves it's going to take 3 days, it's going to take 3 days. And so time expands and contracts based on that theory. Okay. So we know that if we're super, super busy, we get more. Why is it that we get more stuff done? Because we know we don't have time to kill, right? We know that we have 15 minutes between this meeting. I'm going to get stuff done. Right. So if we play with that, I think we can be way more efficient. And we get more stuff done with less time so that we can spend the time with what's really important with our family and our friends and whatever else that gives us joy.
I love that.
And I love this baby. I know that some of you can't see this, but this is my time timer. And I love this. Okay. So if you just go to timetimer.com, I should become an affiliate with them because I love it. It's like 4 inches tall. But if you ladies can see it, but it shows red. And so when I started hopping on here today, I do it when I do my podcast interviews, but I also do it in meetings. When I speak, when I travel, this thing comes with me, and so I know where I'm at. But I'll set this for like 20 minutes. I'm a big believer in 20 minutes. The brain checks out every 20 minutes anyways. So I like to do things in 20-minute increments or less if needed. But and then you set this, and then it eventually clicks down. And then when it's done, it goes white. And it's a great. Because then you're like, okay, but I love playing beat the clock. And so I'm like, okay, is this going to take me 20 minutes? Okay, can I get it done in 18 minutes? And then I'm like, but I am so laser focused. And if we can do tasks that are related to each other, it helps out the brain so much. So, okay, we're going to do emails, and we're going to do emails for 15 minutes. We're going to now do phone calls, because multitasking, and even though us women are just notorious for it, we wear it like a badge of honor. It is not a badge of honor, ladies. Okay. Whoever told you that, they are lying to you. Okay. Multitasking is not a badge of honor. Like, do not believe the lies. Okay. It is a serious thing. Like, okay. So when what happens when we multitask, we're like, okay, this is what happens for the brain. I'm going to tell you what happens with the brain. The brain goes, okay, email. Okay, skill set for emails. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now phone call. Oh, wait. The brain goes, oh, skill set for phone calls. Okay. Okay. Now it downloads, and we're always lagging behind. And then we like, oh, phone call, cell phone. Oh, text. Oh, make an appointment. Oh, schedule. Like the brain, you're making the brain psychotic. So stop it. Okay. Stop it. And just strategically say, okay, these 20 minutes, I'm going to do this, and I'm only going to do this. And you'll be amazed at how much more effective and efficient you are with your time, so that you can put the little carrot, if you will, which is like, I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to get home at 3 o'clock so I can pick up the kids from school. I'm going to get home by 5 so I can have dinner on the table. Whatever that might be for you. And if you are with a spouse or significant other, divide and conquer, right? That's a support system too for you. when my husband and I, chose to, get pregnant, I said, this is a 50-50 thing, right? Like, I'm not going to like, you're not getting off because off the short end of the stick because you're a male. Like, I'm just saying we're parenting, we're co-parenting the whole time, right? Like, you're going to show up too. And that does mean like making dinner and cleaning up and, all these other things. But so make the, invite in your significant other or spouse or parent as well.
I love your multitasking picture there. And I think that's something, like we as women, we imagine that we are multitasking well. It's like an example. I have breastfed 7 babies. So when I would like in the nursing seasons, here I am, baby in my arm, I'm nursing the baby and I'll think I'm going to vacuum the living room while I'm nursing the baby, right? Soothing sound, whatever. And so I'm going to vacuum the whole downstairs, or I'm going to make dinner while I'm nursing the baby. And literally with my early kids, I was like, oh, I can do it all. I can breastfeed the baby and make dinner and go over and run the vacuum for a few minutes. But what I eventually realized with my last couple of kids, and let me tell you, with the last 2, when it was nursing time, I was sitting down in a quiet room. We were having this sweet focused time because what I realized is with all those things going on, baby would nurse for 45 minutes. I mean, like my back is going out. So it takes an hour to make dinner. Baby's nursing the whole time. And I realized, wait a minute, I can sit down, have this sweet focused nursing time with baby for 20 minutes. And then baby falls asleep or is happy awake under the little play crib, and I go make dinner for 20 minutes. And so within that same time frame, I get the same amount done, but without having that, like you described, that brain chaos of thinking I'm multitasking when really I'm just making myself crazy.
Yeah. And it's, and just think about the energy. Like, so I'm trying to like nurse and know we've all tried it. Like we've, I could tell you some funny stories about, I like to try to like put 4 things in one thing, I'm telling you, I'm going to take that on the show with me. Okay. But you're right. Like the energy is like, just when you talk about, you're like, I'm doing this and doing this, like, it's like a frantic energy. Right. Yeah. And so now we're creating this frantic energy and, I'm nursing, right? Like, so what is that? And I'm not going to go down that road, but like, what are we doing? Right. Like we're creating that frantic energy, And
I always say go ahead.
Oh, I just was going to say, we think we're saving time, but then when you really space it out, you're like, no, instead of 45 minutes of chaos, it's 20 peaceful minutes of this, 20 minutes of that. And so,
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, and I always say that if you chase 3 squirrels, they all get away. And so you're not giving 100% to all of those tasks that you're mediocre at best when you're layering them like that. And so,
and my last 2 babies, great nursers, sweet, focused, awesome. They nursed for a long time. Like it was a beautiful experience because I finally learned.
Well, that's a powerful lesson. And I think there's a lot of mompreneurs out there. And it's like, we got to figure out how to do this all by ourselves. And I'm just telling you, like, there's, one of my greatest mentors, he kind of kicked me one day and he's like, Teri, he's like, I don't know where you got the Lone Ranger, like syndrome from, but like, I want you to know that you don't have to do this by yourself. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? Like, it's ladies, it is okay to ask for help. It is okay. And in the entrepreneur world, I will tell you, people give freely, give openly. Like I love being an entrepreneur because of the community, and like women want to see women succeed. Now there's going to be some that's not true. Okay. But I think far more than not, women want to see other women succeed.
I agree. Yeah. So we need to take a quick break before we wrap up our interview and let Teri Miller read a word from our sponsor.
Is your child struggling in more than one subject in school? Have you tried tutoring but still aren't seeing the improvements you were hoping for? Most learning challenges aren't caused by a lack of instruction. They're typically caused by cognitive skills that need to be strengthened. Skills like auditory processing, memory, reasoning, attention, and processing speed. Learning RX one-on-one brain training programs are designed to target and strengthen the skills that we rely on for thinking and learning in every subject. Learning RX can help you identify which skills may be keeping your child from performing their best. In fact, they've worked with more than 100,000 children and adults who wanted to think and perform better. They'd like to help get your child on the path to a brighter and more confident future. Give Learning RX a call at 866-BRAIN-01 or visit learningrx.com. That's learningrx.com.
And we're back talking to Teri Karjala. And so, Teri, you have a book, Be the Magic of You, Tools to Transform Your Life. And we know that Jack Canfield wrote the foreword, so it must be a pretty special book. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So it's about, what are the tools that we can do to, get ourselves back on track, but also back in alignment. And so all the tools that are in there all of them are under 2 minutes. Most of them are under 30 seconds. I bet there's over 30. I'm sorry. I did try to count them up one time, and I think there's over 79 or 80 different tools in there that people can connect with. I also have several other products. I have my daily intentions planners that people always ask me, like, okay, I get the law of attraction. Okay, I don't really buy into it. I don't really understand it, but then maybe I have a vision board, but I don't know, like, okay, I have this. And I'm one of those people that I'm like, I love vision boards and I hate them because, like, we don't know how to use them. Okay. And so in the daily intentions planners, it's combining everything, how you can start generating and creating every day. Because I like to see miracles every day. I don't want to wait, once a year to cash in my vision board, right? Like, let's be creating this every day. So I have that. I also have my evidence journals, helping people collect the evidence that they're on the right track. And documenting that evidence to support and validate what's happening in our world. And then I also have some cards as well. I'm actually going to draw a card for us. So what message do we get to end today with? Let's see.
She's shuffling through cards, people.
Yes. So this one's out of the Be the Magic of You cards. And it says, it is amazing what I can rise up to when I do not limit myself. So we are powerful, potent beings, and we get to be the creators, and very powerful stuff. So, and you can check out all those resources and products on my website, just at talkingwithteri.com. And then I also do a community call. It got created out of the pandemic. And I said, as long as people are showing up, I'm going to continue to show up. So every Tuesday morning, we do a free call to the community to help us stay in high vibe and continue to create. And that's just if everyone goes to talkingwithteri.com and it's /Tuesdays, you can come and join us on that time too.
So what you're saying then is mompreneurs, women in business, they can get free advice and support from you and your group.
Yep. On Tuesday mornings. So every morning,
Tuesday
mornings, I'd invite you ladies to come and join. It's just a great group of ladies, really supportive. I don't do any of the clearings on there, but we do, help support women entrepreneurs. And sometimes people just come just for the energy, like lift. They just want to tap in, tune in, and turn on to, what's going on for them. And some come, weekly, and some come, once a month. And it's just a great group, just a fantastic community. And why I started this was during the pandemic. A lot of people went into fear, and I made a conscious choice, probably because of my upbringing. I was just like, you know what? I spent a lot of time in fear, and I made a choice not to go into fear. And I know that kind of like, people are like, wait, what? You didn't? I chose not to, because I was like, I could be way more effective and efficient helping other people if I'm not in the trenches too. So I made a conscious choice to say, out of fear. And there's a great quote. It says, all birds seek shelter in the storm, except for the eagle. The eagle flies above the storm. So it wasn't that I wasn't aware of the storm that was happening. I was like, okay, I'm very aware that the storm is happening, and not to negate the deaths, the tragedies, the trauma, the unbelievable abuse that happened during that time. But when we can help support everyone, saying, okay, how do we help pull everyone else up? How do we help pull collective consciousness up? How do we help, support folks that needed support the most? That's where, we put our attention and focus.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
So we are out of time, but Teri, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing so many tips for mompreneurs and moms in business. And I mean, we rarely get that many tips packed into an hour. So that was really exciting. And I hope our listeners are excited and ready to try some of them.
Yes, do and report back to me. I always loved hearing success stories and like little things that we start to implement, and then like looking at the results. It's really fun to come and play with. So reach out to me at talkingwithteri.com. Love to connect.
Awesome. Okay, so if you would like to connect with Teri, you heard her. Her website is talkingwithteri.com. We'll also put her social media handles, a link to her group, Tuesdays with Teri, to her podcast, Talking with Teri, and a link to buy her book, Be the Magic of You, Tools to Transform Your Life. All of that will be in our show notes. So thank you so much for listening today. If you liked our show, we would love it if you would leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. If you would rather watch us, we are on YouTube as the Brainy Moms. You can follow us on social media at the Brainy Moms. So look, until next time, we know that you're busy moms and we're busy moms too. So we're out.
See ya.